And we are live on Aus Prop Investors when we bring the big names and we have the big fun. And no, we're not streamed to YouTube, Joe. Sorry.
Okay.
How you going anyway, Nikki?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, really well. I think I need some air conditioning in this study, but I'm going well. It's the market is heating up, not in Wollongong. But how about you, Joe? How you going?
Mate, I'm fantastic. It's crazy. We've never had a real estate agent on this show before, and I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not exactly sure why we haven't, because as investors, we have the demand. You know, investors make up a large proportion of the demand, but real estate agents have the supply. And I see it all the time with investors. I bet you see this a million times over, where investors just get frustrated with the agent, and then they're rude, they're difficult to deal with, they don't give all the information that they should be giving, and they hold things back. And we need
you mean
help.
The buyers, Joe?
Huh?
You mean the buyers or not the agents?
Sorry, buyers. Yeah, investors. Yeah. Investors struggle with the agents. We need one of the best agents in WA to help us out. How do we do this stuff?
I don't know. How are you, Jeff?
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm fantastic, and just excited. And to clarify, you're the first current real estate agent. So Toddy Sloan on Pizza and Property, he has been on the show, but he is a current agent. So had him on a couple of times. But no, the reason I think it's important that we get somebody you are a fantastic operator. You're not simply the run-of-the-mill agent. So if I want to get somebody on, I want to get somebody on who's fantastic and knows exactly the sort of sees it day in, day out, and does a lot of so I think that's important. We didn't just want to get somebody on who was making up the numbers. So, and I wasn't confident we had somebody until we've had a couple of conversations. So, but today, what are we going to be talking about? So with Nikki De Rijcke, sorry, I hesitated, sorry. But no, so we're going to be talking about the sort of the things that buyers struggle with and how to actually overcome those. The top tips of buyers. We're talking about the pricing sort of strategy, as in how you actually understand as a top agent how it all happens. And then we're going to be talking about purpose law. So you have to sort of stay watching for a little bit, because it's going to be, it is so hot, and we've got a couple of examples and all that sort of stuff. And then we're going to be talking about the selling side of things, because Nikki does achieve premium results for her vendors. So it's understanding, yes, selling is a dirty word as an investor, but I think there are times, if you are going to sell, then it's important to understand what you need to do. So I think that wraps it up in a bundle, Joe. So let's kick into it. First off, we'll sort of introduce. Actually, no, I want to ask you, what was the reason that got you into real estate, Nikki? Because I heard it was your childhood dream. So how did you get started?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me here as well. I started, so originally from the Netherlands. That's where the accent is coming from. Back in 2008, I started uni. You had to have a proper uni degree for real estate. 2008, wrong year to start uni. They were like, you're not going to get a job after this. What are you doing here? So I swapped over to event management. Loved event management. So that's where my process-driven part is coming from. It's always been a passion. I came to Australia 10 years ago. It's just me, my family's back home. So it's just me, myself, and I and my partner here, which is exciting. Once I settled down in Perth, I guess I started doing all the property courses, the development courses, renovation courses. It was always property all the time. So once I settled down, and I was like, you know what, let's go for it. So 4.5 years ago, May 2019, I got my license. And that was a bit of a different experience in the Netherlands.
You got your license in the Netherlands?
No.
Then
the
Netherlands.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had to knock on doors to get a listing. That is not the case in the Netherlands.
Can we take a bit of a drop? I want to understand, what is the process like in the Netherlands with real estate? Like, how do you get a listing in the Netherlands? Well,
it's a high regard industry there. People actually you go to an actual real estate office to sell your house. Yep. No one knocks on your doors. You don't get any flyers. It's a proper degree that you have to get there for at least 4 years. You have to get architecture part of your training. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had a history of like investing before you even got into real estate as a career. What did you start with? How did you get into property as an investment vehicle?
Well, let's just say that I've got textbook knowledge before I went into real estate, because I tried to buy property. I've been in the buyer's shoes. I inquired, never got a call back. As soon as you ask too many questions, they don't answer your call anymore. So I never actually managed to get an investment property then. I understand how frustrating it is. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's why I'm interested to chat with you, and Jeff will introduce you shortly. But the real thing is like right now, especially in WA, and it's hard to get a deal. And I see people messing up these offers. They're throwing things out there that they shouldn't be. They're telling agents things that it doesn't make any sense. So how do we communicate with agents? Because right now it seems like I'm struggling, but communicate with you at least. Jeff, who are we chatting with? Who is Nikki De Rijcke? Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I said it better, but no. So Nikki is the director and lessee of JW Residential, and I read this. You worked in worked in management operations prior to seeing the light. Those are my words, I believe. And in your first year as a solo agent, you sold 141 properties. And then you sort of sold. So I looked on your profile. So the last 12 months, according to, is 178. So. And you won the Grand Master in Breedwell, which is a real estate institute of WA, in 2023, and you were second in the top unassisted salesperson listings in 2023. So I know that you're gonna hit that number one in 2024. I have absolute confidence in you. And more importantly as well, because we had some comments before that said, "Oh yes, it's great that you're selling those properties. However, how they know that they're getting vendors are happy and all that sort of stuff." You have been nominated for the top agent based on the Rate My Agent platform as well. So I think that sort of speaks volumes to anybody sort of saying yes. Somebody going through a lot of properties but yeah, you also, as I said, you are very skilled in sort of negotiations and that's, I suppose, why you are such a tough agent to buy up. But the thing I love about hearing about people as well is that you're able to keep active. So it's not all, yes, you do live, eat and breathe real estate, but you also have time for weightlifting, training as well, reading, spending time at the beach and with your partner and your husky Roxy. So is there anything you can't do? Like how good is that? So good on you.
I can't sleep well at night sometimes. Thinking about all the deals that are going on.
Can't sleep at night. I absolutely relate to that. But no, good work, great 100%. Work, fantastic. So
the reason I wanted to get you on is purely because there are, like, the way I look at real estate agents there are agents you want to buy off and there are agents that you want to sell off, and you are by far an agent that I find very difficult to buy off, and it just doesn't happen because you get the best price for the vendor and you are constantly setting new world records in this area. And if I was to ever sell a property in WA, you would be my go-to. And I think that's something we can learn from you in that. Like how should buyers communicate to a real estate agent? Like what are like the fundamental things that we need to be thinking about? Like just winding it right back to the beginning. How do we actually just like get our offer out to the agent, or even before that, when we're looking at property, like how would you explain that to an investor out there, a newbie that's going to make some mistakes?
I think the main thing at the moment, well, as far as I experience it, for me, it feels a bit like Facebook Marketplace at the moment. The first thing you get is still available, and then they disappear. It's right. Yeah, that's how it feels right now. I think at the moment what you need to do, and especially if you see, for example, last week I may have launched up to about 10 properties. If I have so many properties on the go, I could get anywhere between 50 to 150 calls, inquiries, text messages per property. That is just the fact. So if you're going to call an agent and say, "Hi, is it still available?" Yeah, okay. Is this a rectangular block? Yeah, like that's a question you can kind of look up on Google. There's a lot of things you can prepare before actually calling us with meaningful questions. We love to talk to people. We love to help them.
Yeah.
But there's research they can do beforehand.
And what's some of the basic stuff? I mean, read the ad might be read the ad might be a good one.
Look at what the asking price is, and that's what we're working with. I know it's a tough market. I know there's a lot of agents selling properties before they even hit the market. They just publish them online just for their agent profile. I know that's happening. But I guess if you're as an investor in an area where you want to invest, you kind of get to know the agents, what they're doing, how they're working. If a property has just been launched, you can see there's home opens. Like, make sure. I hear the frustrations from buyers that they are booked in for viewings and they get cancelled because it got sold. I don't work that way, so I can imagine it is frustrating. That's why they're asking the questions. But before then, definitely read the ad, look at what the asking price is. But there's a lot of things they can do. They can look at, go to Google Maps. Like, if you want to know what zoning, what schools, how far it is from the beach, you don't have to ask an agent. You can go online, look at all the info. There's a lot of information you can find about zoning so every single council has, for example, an intramaps. You go to City of Rockingham, intramaps. Look at what the zoning is.
Really good tip.
Go to the Water Corporation. Go and see where the sewage line is. If you're looking at adding on a granny flat or a subdivision, look at what the block is all about. Even REWA has updated everything now that you can actually, if you search a property, there's now an option, and that says land data. They've actually incorporated RP data, so the zoning, the heritage. They've incorporated where the easements are. So you can search a lot of those things if that helps you in making a decision what kind of investment you're looking for. If you're looking for a subdivision, you need to start to understand what the zonings are. So if you ask me on a 600 square meter block, if it's subdividable in R20, not sure if you've done your right research for subdivisions, if that's what your question is. So do the training and get to learn what you want to do in your investment journey as well.
Yeah. And do you think part of it is asking stupid questions because they don't know the actual questions that they need to ask to be able to get the information? So it's like, hey, I'm going to have this conversation. I do like the property, but I'm just going to say some things and I don't really know what they mean. And I'm hoping that you can kind of guide me to a solution. Do you see that a lot?
Question. Yeah, I see it a lot. It's like, they ask me, can you tell me more? And if I then ask, what would you like to know? And then they get offended that I don't know what they want to know. So I know if you're researching, then you kind of could understand from the start, okay, what do I want to know? Is everything council approved? If I don't know zoning or subdivisions, is it subdividable? Yes or no? Okay, perfect. More about the property. Is any works needed? Is any lease agreement in place? Like, those are actual questions that would help you in deciding if this property is for you or not. Standard questions that you can find online is probably something that you can research, especially if agents don't call you back or answer your emails. That is information you can find out as well.
Yeah, can I ask what when somebody, because I saw a post earlier in the week where somebody said, "Oh, an agent's not calling me back, or they're not returning my calls." How should a buyer prepare for that kind of happenstance? If an agent's not calling you back, or what sort of approach would you suggest people take?
So every agent, unfortunately, is different. For me, my phone rings. I have it on Do Not Disturb at the moment, but it rings all day, every day. I got so many text messages. So if I'm on the road, going to appraisals, listing presentations, because we want more stock for the buyers as well. If I get a call in between appointments or text messages, I see it when I've stopped driving. If someone calls me and wants information, I'm like, look, send me an inquiry to realestate.com. I'll get back to you because I'm really, my inbox is clean. Everything that I haven't answered is there. Otherwise, it's filed away. So an email is for me the best communication. If you want an answer, email is the best way. If I ask you to send me, for example, a message, send me a text message with your details, the property it's regarding to, and all I get is an email address. After 3 hours of appointments, I can't remember from all those calls what property that relates exactly what they wanted to know, it's hard for me, as much as like I'm only a human as well, as much as I try to remember every single person that calls in a day, it's tough. So finding out best communication styles per agent definitely works. And that's for me, email, 100%.
Yeah, that's a great point, because you know, you instantly think it's going to be phone call, or you instantly think it's going to be text messages, and both of them work completely fantastically for X agent or Y agent, and this is kind of where building relationships come in, because you start to learn these things. But those are types of questions like that a more sophisticated investor would ask somebody as well. Like, hey, Mrs. Agent, what is the best way that you like to communicate? That's a weird question. I haven't heard that before. I haven't heard that very often, I imagine, as an agent. But you're right. I actually prefer phone or email, because I think of email and I'm like, no, surely Nikki's not going to ever see her inbox. But of course, it makes sense because you inquire online. It's the to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely. My inbox is my to-do list. Yeah.
What are some of the mistakes that you see all the time that the common buyer makes when maybe communicating on the phone and then in an open home? What are the big no-nos to not do?
I think the main one is, so how can I get out of the contract if I change my mind? That's a no-no. Yeah.
Okay. Red flag.
Yeah, definitely red flag. I'm very much like a formal offer kind of agent. I know there's a lot of agents that just take formal offer. Just an email is fine, just a verbal. I don't. I was told the other day by an investor how to do my job, because every other agent does it a certain way. He refused to sign a contract. And I said, look, I can't give a verbal to my client, because if you don't want to sign, that is a relationship I'm hurting with my client. And he said, all right, after a lot of back and forth, he said, all right, I'll put a 24-hour clause on it. I said, that's fine. So I changed the contract, put a 24-hour clause on. If that's what he wanted to do, perfect. Next morning, he's like, oh, I've changed my mind. I'm going to reduce my offer because of X, Y, Z. That is a reason why I only believe in formal signed offers, because I want you to know exactly what kind of terms and conditions are you offering my client. But quite often, I've red flags for me are buyers agents, investors that sent out offers but will never ever actually sign an offer for me to present. It's no commitment. And I think not understanding what you're actually signing. I think a main thing for a lot of buyers is like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. We've got East Coast investors that have due diligence clauses, or like the 7-day cool-off periods on the East Coast. We don't have them. So understanding what you're actually doing in WA contract term-wise is perfect. Get ahead of the game. Understand what the REWA contracts look like. That's the one we're all using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I see. Yeah. Some of the big ones as well is like getting angry at the being a bad communicator and being like, you're the enemy, Mrs. Agent, you're the enemy, and I'm sick of this. You should give me the property, and like having this entitled approach. Do you see that a lot nowadays, or that?
Yeah, we cop quite a bit on our end. Look, some agents do deserve it. I understand that, but but there are also a lot of good agents out there. Like, absolutely. In the end, we're here to be the in-between person for someone to get a deal for the property. We're not here to make your life harder. Like, we're really trying to do the best thing, first of all, for our clients, but also to get a great deal across the line with a smooth settlement. Yeah, we have a lot of, because I don't tell them what offer they need to submit today to get the property today. I hear a lot of basically abuse, and I'm just.
You just got to accept it, I guess.
And I think the reason that I think it's important is sort of, regardless of whoever if you're speaking to your accountant, you're speaking to your conveyancer, anybody throughout the process, even the agent who, yes, may work for the vendor. But I would say it's absolutely important to remember that all these people are human and they do have lives, and to sort of have that empathy for those people, because if you can't have that, it is going to make the process more painful for everybody. Like if somebody, yes, it may be sort of challenging for you to sort of hear that the agent's not going to sort of take, or if they're stonewalling you, then that's fine. It's say, okay, well, let's approach the conversation a different way and sort of say, look, I appreciate that this is you're speaking to sort of 20 other people. How do we sort of make sure that, how do we make this a seamless process for everybody? Like how can we help and kind of almost create a collaborative relationship? I'm not sort of saying you need to be friends and sing kumbaya and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, I think that I used to have a very standoffish and antagonistic approach to agents as well. Like when I was back when I was buying properties a couple of years ago, I would sort of balk at an agent saying to me, well, are you finance approved? And I'd say, well, that's my business. And but I now realize that was like a bit of a like holding a red flag to a bull, like rather than just saying, oh yeah, of course I'm finance approved. Like why would I even consider inspecting this property if I'm not? Like I'm good to go. I'm here to make it happen. And just having that sort of tweaking that even that tone of the conversation changes it. So I reckon what we'll do, let's kind of, because I want to hear about pricing strategies, because I think that's absolutely vital and will solve a lot of people's challenges around whether they're buying properties in Perth, whether they're buying properties in Pyrmont, or whether they're buying properties in Pymble. It'll sort of start to give people it'll at least give us some clues as to how they can have more effective agent relationships, because it'll sort of cut out a lot of that sort of thing. And I think you'll be able to give us an absolute masterclass in that. So we'll dive into it after the Paying Our Bills show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special announcement from the master of commercial property investing, Steve Polisi.
I love commercial property.
Get ready to have your minds blown as Steve is back, and he's got some pretty exciting news for us. Steve is unleashing his second sensational book upon the world, and get this, for the Aus Property Investors members out there, he's giving it away absolutely free. Yep, 100% free. Yep. 100% free for all property enthusiasts who want to learn and grow on their commercial property investing journey. But he's also added a little extra chili to make this deal even spicier. With this free book, you'll also receive a complimentary 1-hour strategy session with the man himself. Imagine a full 60 minutes with Steve's commercial and property genius dedicated to helping you master the intricate dance of commercial property investing. And who better to dance with, the man who looks better than Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing? Don't know about that. Want to grab this offer? It's super easy. If you're live right now, click the link in the comments and secure it today. If not, grab your device, open up the browser, head over to polisiproperty.com, look for the book page and grab your free copy of Steve's latest masterpiece. And when you're checking out, make sure to use the exclusive code Aus Prop to secure the free book and also your free 1-hour strategy session. My only concern with this offer is that Steve's going to have to turn it off soon, as he can only do so many sessions. So if you want to secure your spot, do so today. Oh, nearly passed out there.
And we are back. So yeah, so let's talk pricing strategy. So how do we understand how do you price properties as a top agent? I think that'll give people an insight as to what they should be looking at, what things they should be considering.
It's definitely not as easy as everyone thinks it is. It's a market at the moment where there's a lot of emotional buyers out there as well. They sometimes inflate prices for certain properties where if you have an identical property, may not sell for the exact same price. So pricing at the moment where before you would look at 6 months past data, we can't anymore. It's not even 3 months anymore. It's literally what is happening right now is what we look at. For me, it's really like when I appraise a property, I look at rough estimations or where we think roughly the guide should be. But then I always say to my clients as well, let's look at it. If you're not ready for another 3-4 weeks, let's look at it again just then before launching, just what we're going to do on pricing strategy. Because I think a prime example is one that I just sold in Port Kennedy is where when I appraised a property, an identical small villa next door went on the market from 449. It was under offer when I appraised the property. So I said, look, I think we're sitting around there, but we have to see what that one comes in at. So by the time I was ready to go about 4 weeks later with the client, the sale price had come in at 480. So we said, all right, let's change the pricing. Instead of from 449, we're now going from 479. and we went under offer for 535 only like a few days later.
Oh, okay. What was the address of that one?
Montilla, 21 Montilla Avenue.
I'll bring it up.
That's and that's the sort of thing that's while people can get sort of frustrated that they're sort of saying, okay, that's the guide. That's you've actually got a direct comparable there that you've mentioned that is sold at that price. So if the market then decides to pay, if somebody decides they want to pay a lot more for a property, that's really out of your. I mean, that just is fair game to you being. I'm not going to say a better. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe. Yeah, but I think that's important for people to consider, that you can only do the best as the data that you have. So yeah, that's.
Oh, okay.
But that's the sort of thing that I, as much as both Joe and I myself, we look to ask, well, what is a comparable property to this one that you're selling? And some agents will say, well, you can look at it online, and if they do that, that's okay. But I feel that asking that question, I mean, what are your thoughts on asking that question? Is that an irritating question for you, or? And you can say it is if it is.
No, not really. I understand where the question is coming from, but something for one person may not be really comparable to the other. There might be, it might be in the same street, but there could be a whole different road attached to that one that there is to yours. So not one property is the same, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can always ask those questions, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's definitely worthwhile. Like, I was looking at a property that's a duplex, two identical properties, and then I was like, actually, if there's one buy, and this is in Cronulla where I live, I was looking at it, and I was like, wait, this market's not as hot and not as crazy. If there's one buy for a duplex, then they're going to snatch up that deal, and then who else is going to be the buyer for that one? So you could get it for a great price for the first one, and then you might not be able to expect that, because that one crazy buyer with that one crazy offer is not there anymore. They don't exist. There's no competition. Now you can kind of sneak in and get it for a better deal. It's true.
But I had I seen two properties in the same street going on with an agent not long ago. One was fully renovated. One went on the market from 469. Other one, so non-renovated, went for 469. Fully renovated from 499. Both of them sold for 550.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's crazy. And what I suppose that shows is it can be unpredictable.
It can be so unpredictable. It's just that I always say to my clients as well, yes, because I got an amazing price there, but you also sometimes have to understand that the $600,000 I got for a 3x1, and across the road they got 565 for 4x2. That $600K was a buyer that has submitted 30 offers so far. Is absolutely sick and tired of the process, and is the time is of the essence for them. So they're going top budget just to get a property at the moment. So just because that happened doesn't mean it will happen again, but it sets a new price for the properties in the area. So they use that as comparables. Oh, that can sell for that, so we're going to offer that on the other one. So it's a bit of a domino effect.
How do you find as well, because that must be challenging when a vendor or a potential sort of somebody you're going to sell a property for sees that 600K property and says, well, that's the price that how do you deal with those kind of conversations with sellers?
Just the honest truth. I'm always all about the honest truth. I said I'll try my absolute hardest to get you there, but I know that one sold to an emotional buyer. The next offer down was X amount, so there was a big difference. In that case, it wasn't, but sometimes there is like a big difference between the first and the second offer, and I try to explain that to them. But then again, I said, look, put it on the market. If you get the offer that you want, you sell. If you don't, you don't have to sell. That's in the end your choice. So quite often we still get there. Anyways.
Yeah. And WA is such a different market as well, in terms of, like, you put forward an offer, I'll buy this for $500,000, and there's no real way to change that price. Where at $500,000, there's no cooling off as if there is in South Australia and Queensland and New South Wales. There's the 14-day pest and building that you do is only for structural damage, and most houses don't have structural damage. So, I actually did this today. I bought a property. We paid 440,000 for it, and we did the pest and building, and there was a little bit of there was damage here, damage there, blah blah blah, and we negotiated down $23,000 off the purchase price. We
Not
set
in
it up in
WA,
a way, and what's that?
Not
Wasn't
in WA.
It was not in WA. So, you know, you can use those kind of tactics here. What kind of things what kind of things don't get accepted in clauses, and what are some things that we can get away with in some of these contracts in WA?
So what I see, for example, a lot of buyers, they have like 10 dot points that someone has provided them in a course. This is what I want in my contract. Quite most of all of those don't stand up, or they are a duplicate of what's in the joint form. And when I try to educate them, because it's coming from me, it's coming from education. If you're wanting a whole list of conditions on a contract where one thing says that it's going to be vacant possession or as per the joint form, that is already in the joint form. So you don't need to add it on as another condition because it's already there. If I try to explain to a buyer that you legally can't actually sign a management authority for a property to rent it out unless you're the owner of the property. So you can't actually sign that until settlement day. A lot of property managers don't do it, but a lot of properties do. So if they want to advertise and get all these tradies in between unconditional settlement, if a seller gets 10 offers and that one has all these conditions on there, they're not going to look at that. They're just like, look, that's just too hard basket. I'm moving, I'm packing. I need to move all my stuff into a truck to wherever they're going. They don't want to have to deal with tradies coming in and out. They just want easy, smooth. They're always happy with building and pest inspections because in the end, a major structural is never really that major. It's clean conditions.
I think that really we've sort of spoken to the pricing sort of strategy and understanding. Well, even asking and calling up, and you talk about this a lot as well, Joe. Calling up and understanding. Well, why did that property go for that price? Why did they go for 600? And a lot of times, an agent will tell you there's and that's an opportunity to start to build some rapport. Rapport isn't always about like being best friends with the agent. It's just about sort of asking, like having a quality conversation with the agent and saying, okay, great. Have you got a similar one to that one you sold? And what's that one roughly going to go for? And you sort of understand, you start to pick those things. And then you sort of start to learn the next sort of part of the trail. You've got the pricing comparison, and then you've got the terms, as you sort of said, because and asking the agent, well, what terms are going to be best for what's going to work really well for the vendor? Because sometimes they might need to find another property and they might need a longer settlement, or they might have already found somewhere else and need to do a 21-day settlement, which yes is hard, but if you can say, look, let's do our best to say we do a 21, which is quite common, and then sort of say, but look, if I can we will settle on or before that date, and if I can get everything sorted out, and then that way you're making it seamless to everybody.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of creative contracts lately. Well, for a while.
What's the most creative?
I think we've had one contract, for example, where, and I know a lot of agents don't want to do this because they get paid on settlement date. I negotiated a 6-month settlement date with a 2-week clause that as soon as my vendors found a rental property, we can bring settlement within 2 weeks of them finding something. All we had was 2 weeks notice. So we brought it right forward. They didn't need 6 months. The buyers had somewhere to stay. They were house sitting somewhere. And it worked out for everyone. Everyone's happy. So I'm just finding out what people need, what they can do. I have a vendor at the moment. He would like to settle on the property on the date, but he's not moving into his until another 2 weeks after settlement. So at least he can use the funds to prep everything for settlement on the next one. And we're just negotiating 2 weeks of a rent back and no complicated clauses, just smooth and easy. Everyone's happy. Yeah.
That's the right way to do it. Understand what that vendor wants, because I see all this time. Look, I'll give you 14-day pest and building, and I'll give you a quick settlement. And then as an agent, you're like, okay, great, that's your offer. But it's actually, to be honest, Mr. Investor, if you had a 60-day settlement because the people are, they're in a rush, they're a bit older, they need to clean the house, they want to do all that stuff, that's a terrible offer for them. They want 60 to 90 days. but you've never asked the question. You've just gone in with, I think this is the best offer. And as an investor, it's just weighing up the pros and cons. Like for me, I would rather settle in a million days, like, because then I've got the legal rights to the property, but then I don't have to pay the mortgage on it. So if you can get an extended settlement and you can do these type of rent backs, I think it's such a creative way to solve a problem. We have a rent back with a vendor for 2 years. And exactly that. Instead of being 2 weeks, though, it's 4 weeks. We have rent back year 1 at 540, rent back year 2, 560. And then within 4 weeks, you just tell us you need to go and then you go. But then he had a massive settlement. I think it was a 90-day settlement as well. And it worked for him. And we got a great price for that. So that was actually going to be one of my questions around as a buyer. I've bought a lot of properties with tenants in place, and I generally always get a better price because people don't know how to do basic math. So
don't do it on live TV, Joe. You might. I'll get it wrong too.
I'm not going to do the basic math, but
I won't do it either.
How does it work? How does, like, when there's a tenant in place, is that a good thing, a bad thing? Like, what do you say to the vendors if they've got a tenant? How does it kind of work?
For me, I know what I need to say, which is the basic math to sell a property that's tenanted on the market value. In the end, if a vendor needs to sell, regardless if there's a tenant in there, if they have to sell, they have to sell. We'll target it to an investor, but quite often we have a conversation with the tenant as well and say, hey, have you actually considered moving out early? Have you got plans? And sometimes people are like, oh, we're actually building. We want to move out early.
Yeah.
Problem solved. I find that no issues with tenanted properties to sell them. For purchasing, as long as you do your due diligence when you do your inspections, making sure that the tenant is looking after the property. And I'm willing and able to give feedback wherever I can and I'm allowed to. So if someone would ask me, for example, would you recommend vacant possession or keep the tenant? I can give certain information, but I'm happy to say, look, maybe I recommend vacant possession without giving too much information.
But doesn't that make it harder for your vendor to sell? Like, does not sell because it's an easy sale, but that makes it hard for them because then they've got to deal with evicting the tenant and going through all of that stuff.
As long as they've got a fixed lease in place, they can't evict a tenant. If it's a periodic, we just work with the tenant. So my team, we always work with the tenant. We say, look, if you're on a periodic lease and it's sold to an owner-occupier, let's present this house as best as we can. So when you're applying for a rental or new property, we're going to show your property off as this is how you kept the property. This is your application to a new rental. So we're working with the tenant to help them find something else as well. It's not just like, tenant, I need access to the property tomorrow, I'm going to take photos. Like, we need a relationship with them as well, 100%.
Yeah. I love your approach there, because having been sort of in a property that it was going to be sold, and the agent was a little bit rude to me. They weren't sort of, and it put me off guard a little bit. Whereas if they just sort of went with a different approach, I think that your focus is really about relationships. So I think that's fantastic. Speaking about relationships, what I want to hear, or what I want to know, what I'm interested in is, what are your thoughts on how investors can get access to off-market deals? Could you spill the beans on that one?
I don't believe in off-market deals.
Free market.
I don't either. They are real.
They're real. We do them if the seller really wants to. How they can get access. So I work with buyer's agents all the time. My favorite buyer's agents are the ones that say, hey, Nick, what have you got coming up? And I'll just send them a list of properties. They don't ask me any further questions. They do their due diligence, and that's it. I don't know all the information yet. Like I said before, I don't know what the asking price is going to be until they're ready. So I can send you the addresses of everything that I've signed up that I think is going to come in the next month or two. But other than that, it's still always going to be the fact that my sellers want to go to market. That is my recommendation. Yes, they can submit an offer, but they also know that most likely the owner is going to market. So access to the properties beforehand does happen, absolutely. But it's the ones that ask too many questions. It just becomes too much of a time drain for me to update them constantly. So the best way is just like, hey, what have you got coming up? And all they do is do the due diligence. They look at all the things that I mentioned before. They look at RP data and every info that they can find about the property. Do they think it's going to be suitable to them? Yes or no? If it's a no, it's off the list. If it's a yes, they'll keep it there, thinking about the clients that they've got coming.
Kind of like a pocket. I almost call it a pocket listing, because then it's one in the back pocket that and then sort of keeping in contact with the agent then, because you speak to sort of, if you're an investor, you speak to your agents regularly and say, hey, look, you told me about 180 Smith Street. How's that one coming along? Oh, is that ready? Is that coming to market? Are we going to sell? Like, and then you'll say, no, not yet. In a couple of weeks' time. It's like, okay, great, thanks for. And what else you got coming up? Because something else might be ready that I can buy. Because to me, if the numbers stack up, then the deal makes sense, right? I mean, and it's about sort of being prepared, as we sort of spoke about at the beginning.
One buyer's agent waited 6 months for a property to come off market available. 6 months.
Ended up buying it?
Yeah, they did.
Did it go to market?
No, it didn't. But they got a great price.
Yeah.
It didn't end up her being ready because of personal situations with the sellers. It never ended up being ready. So yeah, we got the keys, and then all of a sudden, off market deal.
So then so an agent sends us a list of all their all the properties they got. How do we then communicate back? Like, I want to be your best friend. I want to make sure that I do the right things. How do you want me to say, cool, you've sent me 4 deals. No, but I'm keen on this one. Let's chat. When is it ready? It'll be ready in 2 weeks. Awesome. Let's chat in a week and a half. That type of thing.
Yeah, I have buyer's agents. They call me probably every Monday morning. Hey, how's it going? Sometimes we just run through the list quickly. They don't talk to me for like an hour. It's just like, all right, have any news on this one? You told me about 2 weeks. Not there yet. All right, I'll put it in for another 2 weeks later. Like, it's just the easy, like not pushy kind of thing.
Yeah, just professional. You've got the supply, I've got the demand.
Yeah. Are they ready now?
An investor can absolutely do that as well. Like, you don't have to, I mean, sure, we don't mind a buyer's agent around here, but at the same time, an investor can do exactly the same thing and kind of prepare themselves and be exactly ready and know the price they're willing to pay for a property. And if that sort of marries up with what the vendor is willing to accept, then you'll come together and make a deal. And if it's not, then that's all right. We've got another 5 listings that will come up. I don't sort of I don't get too emotional about these sort of things. I used to maybe a little bit, but try not these days.
A lot of people do get emotional because if you tell them that we think roughly in 2 weeks they'll be ready, people have personal lives. There's always delays. There's personal situations that come up, and they're not ready, and then they get upset because their finance approvals are running out. Like, I can only do as much as I can do.
And I've bought. So I've been doing letterbox campaigns and stuff like that, and I cannot handle dealing with vendors. Like, it is so frustrating. I really feel for real estate agents sometimes because they're like, yeah, we're ready to go. This is cool. Great. I'll buy your property. We don't need a real estate agent. You know, you love this price. I love this price. Together, we're going to have a great relationship. And then something happens, and then the dog, and then this, and then that. And then it's like, it's not the agent. The agent's job is to sell the property. That's what they're trying to, they're going to push it as hard as they can. So if they haven't replied to your email or haven't replied to your text message following that thing up, I'm like, okay, cool. Something's going on. Let's wait. And kind of see, or do a phone call or whatever the other, like, if I send Nikki, for instance, I don't ever text you because you're not a texter. So I'll call, and then I might text or I might email. I don't hear anything. Great. Let's have a phone call the next day or something like that, because you also don't want to lose the opportunity if there is something going on. So it is good, to follow up as well. You just don't be disrespectful and annoying. You just say, hey, yeah, no, we were chatting yesterday, and where did that one? Like, totally forgot to call you. It's doing, it's this, it's and this.
Yeah. I think it's the calls at 5 o'clock in the morning, power calls, because they want to know about something that is not relevant.
Power calls.
Well, because over East now, that's 8 a.m. Joe. So, but that's what I kept saying. It's like, make sure we're talking about time zone. But I think should we dovetail into talking what the Perth market is doing? I think we've waited long enough. I want to hear, of course, everybody wants. It's on the lips of every investor. So
before we do that, let's dive in. Hang on.
There's nothing worse than going into a situation unprepared, especially when that situation is purchasing one of the most expensive assets of your life against a trained property expert in the form of a real estate agent. It's a scary thought, but it is a skill that can be taught. Do you want to learn how to become fully prepared when buying a property so you can get out there, buy your dream home or investment property without the fear of actually messing it up? Scott Agate, the founder and expert property negotiator at Hello House, has been helping people buy their properties by stepping in and negotiating with the agents and saving his clients tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. Scott has now decided to share all that he's learned over the past 28 years in real estate so you can go out there and do the exact same thing on how to find a property, analyze that property, negotiate on that property, and transact on it to get the best results. He's created the Get Buyer Ready course, which is a step-by-step guide on how you too can become an expert property negotiator. It's the easy way of how you can avoid all of these agent games and get the best purchase price on that dream home or your investment property. The course is in short bites for busy people with no fluff at all. Just all the information you need to get buyer ready and secure that next property with confidence at the best price. Scott has been kind enough to give our community a massive discount with the link below. Sign up today before you even think about putting an offer on that next property, and it will be one of the best decisions you ever make.
Okay. I know we just said we're going to talk about the Perth market. I want to hold that a sec. I just realized I had a good question for you, Nikki. So let's play a game. Let's play. I'm a new intern in the office and I'm a real estate agent. I'm trying to learn the ropes and stuff like that. I've got a couple of offers. No, it's not going to be an actual role play. We won't do that. But what are some of the top questions real estate agents use to get the best price from the buyer? So like, you've got the offer in there. How do you kind of how would I get that next level as an agent and get the prices up and kind of drive the value for the vendor? Because you have legally a fiduciary obligation to get the best price with the vendor, and you wield that weapon amazingly, and you do exactly what you need to do. You do an amazing job. But what are some of these things? What are these things? Just help our lowly agent out.
I think it's funny because I hear buyers that buy from me and they're like, Jesus, you got a lot of money out of me, but damn, it was a good process. Like, it was great.
I had fun. I paid a lot of money and I had fun. Isn't that?
Paid a lot of money, but I'm happy. How am I happy about this?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it's. I was actually talking to another buyer's agent before, and it's the art of human connection. It's connecting with people, having a chat to them. What budget are you working with? Like, and I know a lot of people don't want to tell me, but in the end, if you want a property, I know a lot of agents abuse it, and I might use it as well to abuse it. I'm not going to lie. But in the end, if you really want a property, I need to know where you stand. We've got buyers, like everyone is still trying to figure out, if I go at a certain price, can I still put a better offer in? Quite often agents don't. So you need to be aware that some agents might not get you to a better offer. So if you're going in at a price, you're like, well, look, I'm sure I can make it better on, and they don't. We always go back to every single buyer. The main thing at the moment or at any time in selling a property is talking to buyers, get them up. When they've put pen to paper, it doesn't mean that is their final price. We negotiated just the other day, they came in at $850 and ended up at $960. Like, just because it's just talking to people, where you at? Okay, and then it's the final last. If they're only out by 10K, for example, but they're cash versus a finance, how can we make sure that we maybe be able to squeeze just a little bit more just to get them to deal? Because in the end, money talks for vendors. If they see 10K more on a subject to finance, but if the cash buyer still can go up, it's my job to find out where they sit to get the best outcome basically for everyone, and everyone's still happy as well in the end.
What does that sound like? Like, what's the script that you can, that I can utilize as an agent coming up the ropes? Like, how can I chat to that cash
becoming
buyer?
an agent?
What does that sound like? No, I'm not becoming an agent. definitely not. No. In my hypothetical world that we just created, in the real world, I would never become an agent. It's a crazy job, and you do. Hats off to you.
I like buying as well. Buying's fun.
Yeah, buying's good. Well, it's good. Yeah, I like buying because I get to decide what I buy, not what I sell. But anyway, that's an aside. That's buyers agents and real estate agents. Yeah. So any kind of like scripting and actually, like, yeah, to help other scripts that you've heard, not necessarily your secret cheese. Like, so one of the ones that I hear all the time is have you got? I guess So the big one for me, years ago, I bought my PPOR, and I kept bidding against myself. The buyer would go, the agent would have the contract that I gave him, and I gave him, let's just say, 700,000. And he comes back and he says, Joe, I've spoken to the vendors. Sorry, they can't accept 700,000. Can you come up a little bit more? And then I'm like, damn it. Why didn't they accept it? That's so annoying. Yeah, of course. Look, I don't want to. I'll chat to the broker. I need to chat to my wife. I go up 10K, went up 10K. Goes back. Is that going to work? And he's like, cool, I'll check with them. And then comes back to me. No, Joe, it's not going to work. You need to give us more. And I'm like, wow, these vendors. And there was no other buyer. I was literally the only buyer. And then I found out, what if I spoke to another real estate agent and I said to him, how do I do this? What's going on? It's like, dude, he's just bidding you up. Like, he's doing what he has to do to get the best price for the vendor. So he's like, next time you go, I'm like, great, I want to view it on the weekend. I'll come to the open. I had a bunch of brochures and I said, hey, just letting you know, I'm going to go buy this one. So I know I've got the offer on this one. Let's make this one happen, but I'm going to go for this. So my offer is at 720 or whatever the number was. Let's go. And then that kind of stopped that situation. So yeah. Are there other things like that out there that I should be aware?
So I don't actually present. Well, I do present offers. I tell clients roughly where we sit, but not all the time straight away. So if I have, for example, a home open on Saturday, I'll let buyers know we're presenting all offers by Sunday. The client will just sit there and wait until I present all the offers to them, for example. But what I do is I do all every single buyer that's put an offer in, may only be one, they're putting their best and final offer in. Once they've put their best and final, I'm like, okay, tomorrow by 5 o'clock, the seller will have made a decision. Have you submitted your best and final? Oh, no, not really, actually. And then they keep going until I know they're at their best and final. And I do that for every single buyer. And then we're going to sit down with the sellers. Like, this is all the best and final offers I have. They still have the option, of course, to see if one of the offers can come up higher if the terms and conditions are better. But I do all that work beforehand. Because a vendor, in the end, can only negotiate with one client. If I have 10 initial offers, prime example actually is I had a property on the market. It said offers over 549. It needed a lot of work. One buyer came in at 500. Another buyer came in at 530. We were on the market from, let's say, 550. So the 500 buyer, a lot of agents, they don't write them. I write every single offer. So the 500 buyer, I said to him, I said, look, I've got multiple offers on the table presenting tomorrow. You're not going to get it. What is your best and final? He came up to... Well, I'm going to tell you that one next. So the 530, same thing. I said, look, presenting all offers tomorrow. What is your best and final? He came to 535. The 500 ended up going to 560. If I had only given my vendors these two at 500 and 530, they would have maybe negotiated with the 530 instead of even talking to the 500. Just because they put a lower offer in doesn't mean they actually can not go up. Same as the 850 last week. As soon as they were like, okay, actually, we need to improve our offer, they came in $110,000 over what they initially offered.
Jesus. Okay.
I reckon if I'm an agent, I need to be watching this, like, and just watching it every day to understand what you just did there, because that is, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out as a buyer, how do I sort of stop that from happening, guys? And I suppose I say, well, hey, look, I see value in this property at 525. I want to buy this property. Let's make it happen. If I'm not the best, and that is my, I want to buy it today. And if you're presenting tomorrow, that's cool. Let's kind of, if I want to use my preference and then sort of working to that and sort of just cutting out, like, because otherwise you are going to potentially bid against yourself, as Joe said. What are your thoughts on that anyway, Joe?
Well, one of the key points that I don't know if we've solidified, but I just want to articulate a little bit more is 100% know the agent's process. What happens next,
Yeah,
Mr. Agent,
you're
and
right.
how do you run the process? Because that's going to give you all the answers that you need. Hey, because I've put in offers, and then you don't ask the agent, and they're like, "Oh, hey Joe," I'm like, "Hey, how's that offer I put in yesterday?" "Oh, it's I sold it." Why? Because I didn't know that you were selling it the next day. So it's like, "Hey, Mr. Agent, what is the process? What happens next? After I submit my offer, do you do best and finals? Should I come in?" I tell you what's a really good question to ask agents. Should I come in with my best and final, or should I come in low and drag up the price? Which do you think the vendor is going to prefer? Now, Nikki, you're like, "I'm not going to listen to that shit. That's a stupid question." However, it does give you an insight into if you've got a bit of a dodgy agent or not. The good agents will say 100% come in with your best and final, and then Nikki's going to call me back up. "Are you actually at your best and final?" But the dodgy agents will say, "Hey, come in at 520, and then I'll drag you up and I'll feel like a bit of a winner here. So I drag this person from 520 to 500 and 50 or whatever that number is." So yeah, understand the process. What happens next after we do that? But I
I
guess
don't
one
like
of the
the
things.
word dodgy. I just,
Yeah, well,
I don't know. It feels
tough
icky,
shit.
but yeah.
That's what they are.
Funny, I actually tried to buy a property last year. I tried to buy a property.
Yeah.
I tried to put an offer in for 5 days.
For
Um,
5 days. Jesus.
I sent an email and said, "Hey, can you send me the contract? I'm an agent. I know what terms and conditions I need to put on a contract. Saying, can you send me the contract to sign to submit it to the vendor?" Yeah, we'll come. Never received even. She never even called me to say, "Hey, your offer, where does it stand?" All I got was a text message, "Sorry, your offer was unsuccessful." I was like, I never even presented an offer because you never actually gave me the option. So when someone asks me, when the seller makes a decision, can I make a better offer? I know that I can get a better price out of this buyer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a good
But I
one.
need to know as well that if you're not the best offer, if you really want it, I know there's more in the tank for you. So I'm actually going to talk to you and say, "Hey, where are
So
you?"
what is the ideal kind of strategy to go in with a buy? Should I go in with like a 95% of my max? Should I go in with like, well, I guess it sounds like you call every buyer and work them up and do that. But like, what is the ideal? Like, what would you do?
So I asked them for 100%, but then more in the end. But the problem is every agent is different. If you're, I don't disclose any of the buyer's offers with other buyers. So I will not tell someone else that there's a 650K offer on the table. Some agents will tell exactly what's on the table. So buyers feel scared to actually say, "All right, this is my best and final," because they feel like it's being used to get another better offer from another. And it happens. And unfortunately,
it does. Absolutely, it does.
I don't, but I understand that that's a problem. And that's why I find that a lot of buyers, they're waiting until the very last minute where they think the offers are going to be looked at to submit an offer, then run out of time to even review contracts or make a better offer because they've waited till the very last minute instead of being part of the process from the start. And then all of a sudden, property sold without them even having submitted an offer. Because some vendors actually say, "Hey, I'm actually really happy with those terms and conditions for this offer. I'm going to take it. I'm going to cancel the home open." Sometimes that happens. So if you're going to try to wait until after the home open, everyone else is already on the table because you're scared that your offer is being used. So I always say, put your offer in. Take the time to review contracts. You have the time to actually update your offer if you want to, or terms and conditions, whatever the vendor needs, and be part of the actual process instead of waiting because you're scared that your offer is being used.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that if I'm working with you, but most other off agents, I do not agree. I think wait until the last minute and put forward your offer and know when they're closing the deals, and then chat to the agent at the last minute. "Hey, Mr. Agent," I'm like, give them about 90, 95%. "Hey, Mr. Agent, look, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. I'm in the car. I'm driving with the kids. Like, I'm at 510. That's it. I said it. Highest and best. Is that going to get it done?" And then if they say,
I'll send you the offer.
Yeah, it's like I've got to go. I'll write it up, but I'm keen as beans, keen as mustard. Best thing, finance is good, everything is good, but it's not going to happen. Like, is that going to get it done, please? And if their answer is no, then you're like, oh, okay, great, okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Well, like, what are we like? If I go in with $5,000, and then they'll be like, yeah, okay, that'll actually get it done, and then you can go forward with it. Or they'll say no, no. Actually, the other way is when the agent knows that the 510 will get it done, but doesn't want to say it, is like, look, just submit any offers. I think it's a good price. I'm not going to say you either win it or lose it. And then, okay, great. I didn't have to go to 100% and submit my offer. So yeah, I think there's different different tactics, different agents of how to roll with it. Okay, well, that was insightful. Well, let's chat about the Perth market. What was your question about the Perth market, Jeff? You started this one. You opened it.
I think I was just sort of marveling the sort of back and forth. And I just got to say, Nikki sort of seems to have outwitted. I mean, that's why it's so hard to buy. But no, so my sort of question.
She outwitted me.
No. No, I'm not saying she outwitted you completely, but there was, I think I'll give points to Nikki on that one. But just because she's our guest. But no, so I want to understand, to set the scene, your focus, your areas are mostly sort of Rockingham, but you also sell, or you've been selling it even in the sort of Gosnells, and you do sort of all over Perth. But what are you seeing in your areas of focus? Like, what is the market looking like in Perth or in your areas?
I think in general, if you look at the supply and demand, everywhere there's no supply and high demand, regardless of which suburb you're in. I think in general, if you look at the number of properties as such as, 3,800, including land and units this week. If that's back in 2019, we had like 17,000 on the market. So, but we've got more investors, more downsizers they're trying to get, because everyone is trying to either downsize or get in the market. So there's a high demand in general. What I find is probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was mostly investors. But I find the owner occupiers are just realizing that since the last probably 8 months to 12 months, that they actually have to buy in now as well if they really want to get into the market, because they were scared. They were like, what is going on with this market? We're not going to pay these prices. We're not going to pay $400,000 for a 3x1 in Coolangatta, where now we're selling them well over, what was it, $593 for like a 4x1. So they have realized that they actually have to get into the market, and they're starting to get a lot more emotional about the purchases. So to get into a family home, they are willing to spend a lot more just to get into the market, because if you look at the prediction, it's not going to get any better. So it's a lot of emotions out there. That's what I find here. And probably everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what's kind of driving the prices. Emotional people getting emotional and just paying emotional premiums on it.
Yeah, 100%. I had to disappoint someone yesterday for offer number 31 he submitted, and he's like, I'm getting used to it now. And he didn't offer a low price either. He went in well over asking. So it wasn't that he
owner occupier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He needs to vacate his property. He just can't get into the market. So yeah, emotional. Wow. It's tough. I find it tough to tell a buyer, I'm so sorry you didn't get the property. I find it really tough. But in the end, I get the best price for my client and the best terms and conditions that suit them as well.
Yeah. Okay. And are you seeing more like things happening up north, more things happening down south? Like where do you see value? Like if you're to invest right now, where are you seeing value at the moment?
Yeah, the $1 million question.
It'll be $1 million soon.
$1 million soon, yes. To be honest, I haven't actually looked from okay, so to give you an actual idea how my brain works, I'm a sales agent. My job is to sell right now. I was in an investment mindset before. I'm not in there right now because of the high volume I'm doing. My mindset is how can I get the best prices for my clients right now? So I see people moving to other suburbs that I see are rising. So it's the properties up to probably about 600K. They're just flying off the shelves. I had a home open the day before New Year's Eve in Langford. We had 56 groups to the home open.
Wow.
56 the day before New Year's Eve, where they were selling anywhere between 500 to 520. We got 575, somewhere around there. So it's the properties under 500 that are growing a lot. So I'm not even sure where I personally would buy at the moment. I would probably get the advice of someone that actually looks at every suburb. For me, I'm so focused in my bubble. And regardless of where I sell, if it's here in Langford or wherever, I look at what's happening at that market where I'm selling right then and there. It's really hard for me to actually pick where to go right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, and in Perth, like markets have not all moved at once. How many buyers have you got in the 650 to 850 range? Well, 700 to 800 range. How many people reach out to you about those?
Probably less than the up to 600 range. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all 600 and below.
Yeah. I get daily calls from people. They've got 420, 450, 470. You can't find anything anymore.
It doesn't help that the real estate data is slow as well. Like, it takes so long for the numbers to actually get updated. So the median house price for Rockingham is probably 450 or something, but in reality, everything's going for 550.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks. But I'm seeing it a little interesting as some of these more unattractive suburbs get higher in value. The more nicer areas are not actually growing at the same pace. So, like, you know, in Joondalup and Craigie and Heathridge, they're very nice suburbs, but the prices have not actually gone bananas and gangbusters. But then it's getting to a point where it's like, well, it's only an extra 50 grand. Like, you know, let's say Armidale, for instance, is 500 grand. Who would have thought? But for an extra 100 grand, I could live over here. 600 is probably not the right way to think about it, but you're getting a far better area and you're paying a little bit more. So there's like that affordability squeeze where, oh shit, actually I should just focus on a better property in a better location. I just wonder when those type of things are gonna, when that penny is gonna drop for people.
I think when I look at, if I get nearly better prices in Hillman and Coolungup than I do in Secret Harbour, well, what I see in Secret Harbour, that surprises me. When Secret Harbour is with the schools and everything is classed as such a great suburb as well. It's just the demand where people have been told to invest in a certain pocket. They're all going there. That's what I found, especially a couple of years ago, is that was driving that market is investors. Like, they were all going for the same properties and then they're moving to the next suburb altogether, which is they're all competing with each other. So, where if they're not being told to buy in Secret Harbour, they're not here. If they are being told you have to buy in these suburbs because that's where the growth is, they're competing with each other. So where the values are going so much higher than in a, like you said, a more premium suburb nearby.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah, Secret Harbour's far more nicer, got far better, and you can spend the same amount of money. And it's just knowing, I mean, this is where boots on the ground becomes so valuable, right? Like, people actually going to the area that you're buying. You are spending $500,000-$600,000 on an investment property. I know WA is far; it's an annoying plane journey, but you kind of have to do it. Like, just go check the place out, spend the weekend, maybe longer than a weekend. Rent a car, drive around, have a good time.
Go to Rottnest Island, go and check out the cockers. I mean, I'd be go and check them out.
I haven't seen the cockers. I was looking at.
You have to do it, Joe. You go back.
Driving through Armidale, scared for my life.
No, it's fine. Grew up in Mount Druitt, man.
Lovely,
it's easy drive, mate. Armidale's got nothing on Mount Druitt. Not that I know. The question I wanted, because you're sort of saying that we are at still record sort of lows, as long as they're keeping records on the REWA sort of stock. What are you sort of seeing in your pipeline? Are you starting to see that more vendors are looking to sort of offload or sell their properties? Or what are you seeing coming up in the next 3 or 6 months? Or is that too hard to tell? Not
really. My pipeline is pretty healthy ongoing. I see a lot of investors, they're looking just to sell because of personal reasons. I think when I saw the questions before, like, is this a good time to sell? In my opinion, if you don't need to sell, don't sell. I had actually an email today from a lady that went to an appraisal yesterday, and she wanted to know her value. And she's like, should I sell right now? And I was like, do you have to sell? She's like, not really. Then hold on for a little. Yeah. So I don't think any agent would say that, to be honest. But
no. That was one of the comments. They said, "Oh yeah, of course, an agent's going to say now's a great time to sell." And I've sold properties before, and I have sort of been given that line, and I genuinely believe that agent believes that it was a good time to sell. But at the same time, yes, if you ask a barber if you need a haircut, they're going to say yes, you need to get a haircut. I do need a haircut, but yeah. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, I see that as a pipeline sale. If I tell her no,
taking profits is a personal reason. Yeah, fair call.
Fair call. A lot of agents, they are struggling with stock and they have got nothing. So of course they'll tell you to sell. And yes, it's a great time to sell. But yes, we're getting premiums. But you might be able to be in a better spot in 12 months' time. I'd rather give them the advice, look, based on what I know right now is we don't have stock for a long time. If you can hold on, I'd rather sell your house in 12 months' time when you can get more for your property. I'd rather do that and build that relationship with them over this period. So for me, it's more relationship building long-term than what am I going to get out of it right now. So my pipeline is a lot of owner-occupiers that we've got the photos, we've got everything ready to go, but they have got nowhere to go. So I've got a whole list there. As soon as I find something, we're live. I'm not sure when that is.
Do you give them to buyer's agents? Do you just say, hey, contact to this buyer's agent because you can't find because they're just becoming the buyer pool and they're like, oh, real estate says it's $550. I'll go ahead and pay $550. No, it's going for $650 because you don't know the area. Yeah, I guess does that happen? Or I guess you would just depend on the client and what they want and what they're doing and stuff.
Quite often they don't want to pay a selling fee and a buying fee, so then it becomes a bit tricky. But a lot of people, they are quite often nervous because they don't know what they're going to get for their property. So they are happy to pay a certain price for a property, but then they're nervous that they're not going to get what they need for theirs to make the deal happen. It's just nurturing people during the process, and when it's the right time, it's the right time for them to sell. But I always make sure they're ready to go. Yeah.
Taking the long game approach, like rather than sort of saying to somebody that, yes, I'm going to sell your property today, it's a great time to sell. I kind of love that. It's your mindset. It's been littered throughout this conversation. Like you act, and there's been some sort of people throwing a bit of shade, and I sort of say, look, I think you absolutely have a whole bunch of integrity. So good on you. What I'm interested as well to know, because you sort of started roughly your career in sort of when Perth still hadn't gotten to the stage where it was picking up. What was 2019 like? Because you were still seeing what was happening. What was that like compared to now? Is it complete chalk and cheese? Like what was that?
So to give you an idea so my first solo year when I did the high numbers, that wasn't 2019. When I started in 2019 is literally just before COVID started. So I got on with this company. You putting it behind your desk and you don't know what's going on. You're literally just sitting there trying to figure out what to do. And then COVID hit and I left the industry for a little while back into my old job. So I actually haven't really felt like what 2019 and 2020 was because I wasn't really there in the market. I wasn't really there at all. So I can't really comment on what it was like
then. That's fair enough.
Have
you spoken to sort of colleagues who were sort of selling in that sort of 2015, 2016 or sort of people professional in the industry and sort of gained their sort of insights? Because I think that I imagine that would be quite enlightening to sort of hear. They must have been really struggling in those sort of times when prices were just sort of not free falling, but they were sort of stagnating or going backwards. Have you had many conversations about that?
A lot of agents would love to tell you how hard it was back in the day and how easy it is for us right now. They love to tell us that.
Yeah. It's kind of like when people are saying, oh, like boomers sort of saying, oh, I mean, no disrespect to boomers, but you do hear, oh, like property prices were really, really, it was 19% interest rates. It was so hard to buy back then because, and similar to, your sort of 2014, 2015. But it's interesting.
The answer is it's always hard to buy every single time. If it was easy to buy, then everyone would have more real estate. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of real estate, but it's never an easy time to buy. You've got to have your situation lined up. You've got to sacrifice. You've got to save. You've got to research and spend the time to find, negotiate, and secure an amazing deal. It's never easy. So anyone that thinks it's easy is probably buying a shit asset, to be honest, because it's easy. It's not easy. No, okay. So there's a couple of questions in here, and I think we should jump to some of them. I guess in terms of we might be leading back to what we already chatted about, but I saw one that came up about underquoting. Did you see that one, Jeff? I'm just trying to bring it up here. Why do agents underquote? It's worse in some areas than others. Prosecution. Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's just a small screen. What's the purpose of this whole underquoting thing, and why does it happen?
It's not like for some that definitely it happens 100%. I'm not going to ignore it at all. I see that quite often. What I find is when I work with a client, for example, is we set kind of like a range where they're hoping offers to come in at. If I do the marketing and I'm like, okay, so if we put it on for this price, what are buyers in their mind expecting to pay? That is the most important part of the current market, because when a buyer sees a property like that's going to go 50 grand over asking. So if you want to have around at 650, if you're launching at 650, they're like, oh, it's going to be 700, I'm out. Where in fact, they actually could have afforded their property. So we actually need to sometimes reverse engineer and still in the line of where a seller is willing to accept an offer. If that was the best offer they got, perfect, happy days. But if we need to work out what buyers are thinking, and that is the main thing that we work with, people are like, oh, this is going to go X amount of over asking. I hear it every single day. So if I see a property being launched at a high price, it doesn't go as fast. Go like kind of in the range where the seller's still willing, it goes to the price they wanted to go for as well. It's still that price that it was originally listed for. So it's working it's a very talking to buyers and see what they're expecting. It's not that we want to underquote, and we don't really underquote as such at all. It's just, it's still where the vendor is willing to accept. But then it's the buyers. It seems like underquoting actually more in my opinion, because buyers are fighting and putting emotional offers in. So it looks like it was underquoted when it wasn't actually at all. So if I, for example, look at that Montilla Crescent property, I put it in what next door sold for, and then it went for 535.
I like this comment. Easy to look like underwriting or underquoting when the market increased by 10% between the listing presentation and auction day. So, and that's like how it's very tough to, like, Joe, you and I have seen in Victoria where they've overquoted on what the property has been bought for. So, I mean, nobody's complaining.
I did a fantastic negotiation on that one, Jeff. I deserved the $40,000 under the listing price. It was well deserved.
But nobody complains though when that happens. They're not like, oh, you overquoted it. Like, you sell it to me for 530. But people only complain when they feel that it disadvantages them. But I sort of yes, it does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I think in some markets it's really tough for agents to sort of have that understanding, depending on how much property they're selling, because some agents may be only selling one or two a month, and or only sort of one every couple of months. And if they're only doing that, I mean, they're probably not making a lot of money. But then they may not know what's actually or they may have sort of taken a break or whatever reason. So I don't want to.
They're looking at past data, and we put a certain value on a property, but in the end, it's what a buyer is willing to pay is what the actual value is. We don't often actually really know what a buyer is willing to pay. We can kind of guide them in a way like this is where the seller is wanting to get a value, but in the end, whatever you're willing to pay is what it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's what is that in value? And if you see value, like you'll look at a property and you'll see value for 650 every day of the week, and it'll go for 690. It's like, well, I see value. Like this is what I do every day. I put forward offers to deals where I see a point of value, and it gets overrun because I don't overpay on deals. So every time, great. 555 is my walk away price. Thank you very much. This is going to be really exciting. Mr. Client, we're going to go in with a 540 and then we're going to work our way up. But then 530, 540, 550, 560. Cool. Thank you, Mrs. Agent. Have a great day. It went above where I saw value. So I guess it's the same situation. You guys are just saying, I'm going to put my 650 here. I guess it's not really the same situation because, it will attract more buyers. Yeah. So I guess that like if there was a standard, like I don't know. I don't know how to solve it. I don't know what the only way to solve it is for people not to go crazy.
And I think this is a really good point as well. Selling data must be weighted heavily for recency in a market like this, because you're looking at medians or looking even at like a 3 month ago comparable is not probably not comparable in a sort of in a quickly rising market, which is what this person's sort of saying.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest thing that I tell people is like, if you're going to go do this yourself, stop looking at real estate and this property's 500, this property's 505, this one's 502, this one's 500. Great. Hey, Nikki, I want this property for 500,000. And then it's like, no. Call up every real estate agent on under offer, because as that person said, it's 60 days old, 90 days old. It's got to settle. It's got to go unconditional. And you'll see 520, 525, 520, 525. The market has moved and you have to keep up if you're going to be wanting to own in that market. So you have to be in a realistic range, because that 505 is gone. Obviously you don't want to be the last one holding the bag, and that's where you need to determine where's your walk away for that entire market. But outside of that, if you're wanting to get in there, then set your walk away, but chat with every single agent with under offer, and they don't give you the answer all the time because they're legally not allowed to, but you can get it out of them.
Well, not even get it out. It's just say, well, generally, like, could you give me a range? Just give me some sort of indication to where it likely sold. I mean,
I don't mind sharing.
This one's a really. Sorry, go.
I try to share, like, because I understand how hard it is, and I guess that's what the personal connection I want to have with buyers as well. Because I also know that if I'm selling, let's say 20 this month in the same area, I want buyers to understand that what if I just sold yesterday, as long as deposits are paid and it's a solid contract, what did that one go for? Okay, all right. If they're looking at another property of mine, I kind of want them to know what the other one went for. So I'm happy to share the data. But as you said before, talking about pricing, I had a sell last week. Actually, it was a few days ago. Deposits are paid. Finances are nearly already done. It's okay. We went on the market from 650. It was very unique. There wasn't much around. I had a lot of people throwing a lot of interest. And there's a lot of people said, like, that was way overpriced. Like, how dare you put it on for 650? I sold it for 750 just because like people are actually giving me, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the word, but when in the end I know I've sold it for $750,000, $100,000 over asking. I had a buyer, he came for a home open, and how dare I put a property on the market for that price? I already had well above. And he was like, this is never worth more than $400,000 because he hadn't done the research. So screaming and yelling at a home open doesn't actually help.
That's red flag.
Throwing their cots throwing their toys out of cot. I want to hear your, like, what are you getting? What are you sort of seeing and selling around units? So are units selling as quickly? Are they taking longer? What sort of price are you getting for those?
I don't sell as many units. However, I've sold one recently in the last couple of weeks where the units were going anywhere between 320 to 350, let's say that range. I launched it within, I think it was 24 hours actually. I had someone from the East Coast whose rental was ending by the 18th of January. So it was actually a deal in December. The rental was ending in January. He had to move over to be with his family. He ended up paying $410. So but again, that's emotional. But that $410 now becomes probably a new standard. All right, that one went for $410. I want mine to sell for $410. But the units are generally lower priced, which is where a lot of buyers want to be in. The first home buyers, the downsizers, they all want to be in those units at the moment because they want to sell up the big homes. So there's a lot of competition in the lower end of the price range, which is mostly units. So yes, I do see a lot of more growth, but a lot of people also don't want to be in the strata complex or having strata fees. So there's still a bit of mixed feelings. I think it will take off later in the year a lot more, just because of the prices for house and land. It's just too high.
Established. Yeah, well, and this kind of looks to be like Perth becoming an established city, right? Something that people actually want to go to. So my wife went to WA, I don't know, 15 years ago when it was at its peak price, and it's only just gone above 15 years later above that line of where it was at its peak. It's like that's pretty interesting. Fundamentally, we went back to do a boots on the ground trip. The area's fundamentally changed. There's infrastructure, there's parks, there's water, there's like everything has gone absolutely gangbusters, and it's only just gotten to that, well, not only, it's gone above now, but it's like, okay, great. You're now like, this is where people are like, how much is left to go in Perth? It's like, well, it's 14 delays. The height was here, and now we've actually got a incredibly different place to deal with. I don't know. Where does it end? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think you need to be very discerning based on the suburbs, though, because I sort of throw lines up like that out as well. But was it sort of 500K in Rockingham 10, 12 years ago? I suppose is the kind of, because just to get the median. Yeah, I think it's important to look at it and then sort of say, well, okay, what is that sort of, and then sort of be speaking to agents like Nikki, who does a lot of listings, because you get a lot of information off agents. So definitely don't waste an agent's time, and be courteous and all that sort of stuff, and only sort of only take as much time as you need to, and sort of execute a sale. So this has been great. So let's do one or two more questions if they're out there. Throw them in. But
is there anything that you wanted to chat to, Nikki? Is there anything that you wanted to go kind of cover off and get out there to the audience? And
I don't know. I think the main thing I think I would like people to know is that we're not always the bad guys here. We're here to help. As much as I know and I understand how tough it is out there. I think just the main thing is do your due diligence, know who you're dealing with out in the marketplace, and get to know the agents, learn what they're all about. And I think it's as well, like, you need to understand if you're going to invest in an area. I get the questions all the time. What do you think is going to happen in 10 years? I'm not the right person to ask. I'm here to work for my seller today, right now. This is what I need to get the best results. You need to talk to an expert like you guys. What is the forecast? Where do you reckon? Like, talk to the people that have the information you want. Don't talk to me as an agent my job is basically to sell the houses right now for the best price for whoever needs to sell right now. If someone is going to ask about a 10-year plan, I'm like, look, talk to them guys, because that's where they excelling. I can try to give you an answer as best as I can. However, I'm literally working in my bubble here with my sellers. So if you're looking to invest, go to the right people, and that's guys like you. You are the guys that need to you're the ones that have the most information for them to make the right decisions, not me as an agent. I get the question all the time, Nikki, what do I need to buy? Look, I can tell you whatever you need to buy, like right now. I don't care. Like,
I just happen to have the listing for it as well.
Great. We're here to help. And I guess talk to the people that know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And talk to them like you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway that I think people should get along with this is, like, be respectful for agents, because the old uncle that walks in and kicks stuff and it's like, what about this? This is all terrible and blah, 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 and battle the agent. It doesn't exist anymore. You have to be respectful, because the agent has control of the asset. You are a buyer in a very much a seller's market. Be as respectful and nice as you can, and come in prepared about knowing what you want, and have multiple questions that you've got that are actually valuable. What are the terms that your vendor's looking for? What's the process after you do this, after I submit my offer? What does this look like? Those type of things are more valuable than, oh, I see that it's got 3 bedrooms. Does it have 3 bedrooms? Yes, it does.
What are the size of the bedrooms? It's I suppose that's the only thing. Floor plans in WA are still catching up.
They're coming back now. Everyone's loving a floor plan now. Everything's got a floor plan now, which is, well, not everything, but it's good to see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming on, Nikki. It's been fantastic, and you've been an absolute superstar jumping on and sort of being with us for an hour and a half. So, Joe, how do you want?
Well, look, we're looking to sell in WA. What do we do? Where do we go? How does this work? Where do we learn more about you, Nikki?
Give me a call, email, anything. You can request a free appraisal. Yeah, I think the main concern a lot of people have is if you request a free appraisal, I'm going to get bombarded with calls. I just want to get an idea on my value. Like, we're here to help. So if you want to get an idea on selling or anything, we're open to chat about what you need, what you want. My profile is there. Thanks, guys.
And I'm sorry, we didn't actually get to talk about selling, like your top tips, because that is probably your bread and butter. We just got so enthralled talking about Perth and about crystal balling. So good on you for if you want to understand a real sort of master of her game, then reach out to Nikki. And thanks for jumping on. The plaudits are sort of flowing in.
Love it. Yeah, epic session. Appreciate you taking the time, Nikki. Let's go buy a property. Let's go maybe even sell a property with Nikki.
You're available if you like.